WBUR Podcast, Boston.
I'm Daryl C. Murphy, and you're listening to The Comment. Allie Jarmanning, WBUR senior reporter. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Daryl.
So, Allie, I heard you live on a beach. Is that correct?
I sure do. I live on the South Shore in Hull, or a little peninsula, and I live one street off of Nantasket Beach. It is the best.
Yeah, do you go a lot?
Constantly, every day that I can. I could easily sit on the beach for 8 hours, bring multiple sandwiches and a nice cooler of drinks. And then in the winter, walking on the beach, having the dog down there.
Damn.
Move out of the city, get to the beach. It's great.
Living the dream.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds awesome. Is the beach ever closed? Like, what do you do then?
Well, I've been digging into this issue of beach closures the last couple weeks. So in Massachusetts, we do a pretty rigorous job of testing the water to make sure it's clean enough to swim in. And so, of course, when I found out that there was this data in Massachusetts, I immediately looked up my local beach, Nantasket Beach. And I was very relieved to see that the last couple of years we have not had lots of bacteria in the water and there hasn't had to be a closure. But there are lots of beaches that are. And so there have been 1,000 days across 500 saltwater beaches in Massachusetts last year where beaches were closed.
And Allie, when you say 1,000 days, explain what you mean there.
So maybe the better way to put it is that there are 1,000 times when beaches were closed because of high tests. So in one day, we could have 20 or 30 beaches that were closed. That's 20 or 30 times that we're saying that there was a beach closure because of a high test.
We're counting concurrently.
Yes. So like today, you and I are talking on Monday, the 10th,
Yep.
and there are more than 70 beaches closed in Massachusetts right now because of bacterial exceedance. And so that's freshwater beaches and saltwater beaches. And so that's because somebody has gone and scooped up a little bit of water, tested it, and said, hey, there's way too much bacteria in here for somebody to safely swim.
So with these beaches that are coming back with these high bacteria test results, what's behind that?
Usually it's rain. And so what that can mean is you have a super rainy day, you have rain coming down on pavement, and it's sweeping in, trash, dog poop, whatever kind of yucky stuff that's on all our pavement and sidewalks and yards and things like that. And it's heading into the water. You have some other places where maybe it's a stormwater or sewage overflow that might be happening on a really rainy day. But a lot of it is just rainfall. Like we've looked at the data, and in 2021, it was incredibly rainy. And that was also the summer where we saw a ton of bacterial tests that came back high. So it really tracks pretty well that the rainier it is, the more closures you're going to see.
We just had a rainy 4th of July weekend. How many beaches were closed because of that?
Yeah, so I checked the day after the 4th. There was more than 20 saltwater beaches closed because of high bacterial counts.
Well, we're talking about bacteria at these beaches, but overall, Massachusetts has some pretty clean beaches, right?
Oh, yes, definitely. We have some of the cleanest urban beaches in Massachusetts. I think a lot of times people think, oh, I got to get in the car and drive, to the Cape or something like that. But like the beaches in Southie, Revere, they're some of the cleanest beaches in the country. They, when their testing has shown that they're almost always safe for swimming. So 99, 100% clean tests every year on average.
Okay, Massachusetts has some of the cleanest beaches, right? I want to ask you about access to these beaches. How easy are they for people to get to?
Right. So Massachusetts is kind of unique in that if you're just a regular person without a beach house right on the water, you need to go to a public beach. And that's because Massachusetts, if you have a waterfront home, your property line goes all the way to the low tide mark. So you essentially own the beach for all intents and purposes, and people can't just like set up there with their umbrella and chairs and everything. So if you are a regular person, you have to go find a public beach. And so if they are closed, you're really out of luck. So Kings Beach is a really good / bad example here because it's in Lynn. It's great access for folks who live in Lynn, a lot of whom don't have cars. But it's also one of the beaches that's closed more than any other beach in the state. And that's because of this issue. There's basically a storm pipe that like dumps sewage in the water there. And so especially on rainy days, there's a lot of sewage overflow there. And what they're trying to do there to fix it is actually get $25 million to buy this UV light system that would zap the water and kill the bacteria and make it clean when it goes out into the water there. But that really gets at one of the issues here of why it's so important to have clean beaches. If you live in Lynn and this one beach that you can walk to or take public transit to is closed, I mean, that's a huge issue for folks who live there.
And I would imagine this is an equity issue, right?
Yeah, yes. There was this detail in the state report that I found really interesting and troubling, which was environmental justice communities, which these are communities that, have high population densities, they're low income, not a lot of people own cars. Environmental justice communities, they had higher levels of beach closures, higher levels of bacteria in the water leading to beach closures than other places. So you kind of get like a double whammy there. So it's a real issue for a lot of places. And I think that's why, cities like Lynn are really focused on making sure that they can clean the water up and make it a reliable place for people to cool off.
We're going to take a quick break, but we'll be right back.
Did you kill Marlene Johnson?
I think you're one of the first people to have actually asked.
From WBUR and ZSP Media, this is Beyond All Repair, a new podcast about an unsolved murder that will leave you questioning everything.
Somebody should be in jail for murdering my sister.
A woman who's never been believed.
As long as they think I have done this, then they're not looking for who actually did this.
And that's what makes it a cold case.
No, it's a botched case.
And a search for the truth, once and for all.
Wow, it just gets more interesting.
Beyond All Repair. Listen and follow wherever you get your podcasts.
Be careful. You're digging in a place that's been very peaceful for a while.
Do it anyway. Dig.
And we are back. I want to zero in on the bacteria itself and these tests. Of course, this testing sounds very important, but how reliable are they when it comes to figuring out when beaches need to be closed?
Yeah, so how it works is, somebody from the city or health department will go down and take a scoop of water, seal it up, send it to a testing facility, and if they do that today, they'll get the test back tomorrow and know whether the water was clean. But, that's testing what happened yesterday, not today. And so basically today's bad test is yesterday's dirty water. And so I talked to Chris Mancini. He's head of Save the Harbor, Save the Bay. They focus on beaches from Nahant to Nantasket. And he told me that when they did a study of Constitution Beach in East Boston, they found that the handful of days when the beach was closed because of high bacteria counts, that they actually weren't even correct. So here's what he had to say.
The test was right for the day before, but because you don't get the test results for 24 hours, you put the flag up 24 hours later, and now you actually have clean water. You're actually taking beach days away from people.
And that's like a huge bummer when you live in a place where there is a beach really close to you. It's a super hot day. You can have a day like today where there's a ton of rain and maybe there's going to be a lot of runoff and cause a high test. But then the test isn't going to come back tomorrow when it's going to be beautiful out and people are going to want to go there and to swim. So another way to think about it is Remember back to the COVID testing days, the early days where you would go and get your nose swabbed and you'd have to wait 24, 48, maybe 72 hours to find out whether you had COVID a day or more before. That's kind of what's happening with these beach closures. They're taking a sampling of the water, they're sending it out for testing, and they're not finding out for a day later what the status is. So essentially, we need to figure out a rapid test for testing the water.
Well, is anybody working on that?
I don't know of anybody, but I'm sure there is some scientists out there thinking about this. But one thing that I've heard that folks try to do is either predictive closures, like, hey, it's really raining today, it's probably going to be a high runoff day, we should just precautionarily close the beach. But even then, it's only about 50% accurate, so there's no way to really know for sure.
Well, Allie, how can people find out which beaches are closed? Where can they check?
Yeah, so the state has a website where they list all of the closures for that day at freshwater and saltwater beaches. If you just Google like Massachusetts beach water quality, it's the first result. Mm-hmm. Click on there and you can see the current public beach postings, and it'll pull up exactly the city and town, where it's closed, why it's closed, beach type, all of that.
All right, and just to be clear, just because these tests are basically a day late, these test results, that doesn't mean we should just ignore the sign that says, do not enter, the beach is closed, right?
Right. I would not recommend that. High bacteria can mean an eye infection, stomachache, diarrhea, all sorts of issues. So you should definitely trust the signage that goes up. It's the best measure that we have.
You will not become a superhero.
No, it's not going to work out for you.
Well, Allie, if the beaches are closed, we're just going to come to your house.
Yeah, that's totally fine. Park in my driveway, come take a shower in my outside shower. Water's fine.
Can we get some of them sandwiches?
Oh, yeah. You got it. I'm the queen of the beach food, so you're welcome to come anytime, Daryl.
All right. Allie, thank you so much for this reporting, and thank you so much for your time coming through to the Common. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for your interest.
That's WBUR senior reporter Allie Jarmanning. And that's our show for today. Thank you so much for listening to The Common. Have you been impacted by any beach closures this summer? Hit us up on Instagram at WBUR The Common or send us an email at thecommon@wbur.org. I'm Daryl C. Murphy, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.